Charles, if you can just explain what we're looking at here, and then just based off everything the last year or two, helping really explain just the issues you've been facing and putting everything in the context.
Well, it's kind of goes way back. This river bottom has been in our family for 100 and almost 15 years now, and over to the south end of this meadow we've owned all the time, and there's been different pieces and ranches added to this. So as you're looking down on this river bottom right now, the green part is the part we owned all along, and the brown part is the land in question, the 25 acres, and I guess we did not operate, we did not do anything with the piece in brown. Those are weeds that are standing still. It's all planted to winter wheat at this time, and so the green shows to be it's all should be green down underneath the weeds. But anyways, the fence is out on the outside of the brown between it and the trees, and that's the fence that was put there in prior to 1950, and by my great grandpa that lived just out of sight around this hill. And when we go down there, we'll be able to point that area out better. But where we're standing right now is federal land. On the other side where those trees are is federal land. So this is an 80-acre parcel that jets into federal land is what it amounts to. We own more acres to the north and back up to the west, and across the road where we came in here is our homestead from 1917. So
I think it's really critical, and I wish more people would come and physically see it. We appreciate you guys doing that, just because you look at this and you see, here is this, right here is this. We as the landowner said, well, once we get a survey and find out where we're at, we're willing to trade you something that better suits your requirements for something that has been managed in a private fashion for 115 years. And rather than we were never given a written violation that we had done anything wrong. We were never offered any form of resolution, ever.
Or due process.
There was no due process. And so for it to escalate to the point of criminal charges over a historic family place that you can look at the management of, and then a family willing to work with you, it is outrageous. And there is no question in my mind why so many people picked this up and were so concerned when they took this and decided to turn it into something criminal instead of willingly working with the landowner. And the amount of taxpayer dollars and resources that were invested into what amounts to 25 acres, and there are 20-ish acres of ours right there, is just, I still have a hard time wrapping my head around it, and I went through it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we appreciate you coming to look at it. Anything else?
Well, and if you survey the area, you can start seeing where the fences are not straight because of the way the river runs, the way the river breaks are. You cannot fence some of this. For instance, right here, that fence line that comes from the south right here should go straight up over this nasty hill and down into that draw and back up the other side. You physically cannot keep the fence there.
Yeah.
So we have put fences where we can keep them up. And right over here, and we'll go through that gate, at the top of this draw is where we access this river bottom. That is where the complaint was supposedly found, where our trespassing signs were up. And it's onto the Forest Service, and our private land is here. And it was mainly just to keep people from, we didn't care if they walked in there. It was more the driving component of that.
And that's the only place on that whole fence where there was a no trespassing sign. And we have never seen the documentation to verify that that was an actual complaint either.
Of course.
So so many people have questions and come to us with them. And unfortunately, we still have a lot of the same questions. And that's a really challenging part, is why did it happen? Who let it happen? And like, how do you, everybody says, oh, you get on with your life. You do, but on the other hand, like what happens tomorrow if we don't get this resolved in a way that prevents them from doing it again?
Yep, absolutely. Because that's the thing that I would probably thinking of, it's kind of like the same with a storm, that that storm has hit, it could happen again.
Yep.
You have no idea when, but it could hit again.
Yep, and by all accounts, there was no intent, we never did anything wrong. They brought everything, and we reacted in a manner of, let's resolve it, let's work with you, and then you see this, what occurred to us, and you can't help but be a little head shy about, will it happen again? Yeah, so optimistic with the current Secretary of Ag, as we mentioned in the podcast. Optimistic with the direction she's going. She has been wonderful. And we are at this time working to utilize the Small Tracts Act, which is designed specifically for situations like ours, where the farm or ranch has never sold. You find a place where the boundary was off, nobody knew about that, and then you sell it to the landowner. And we are in the process of working on that for these acres, and we did work directly with the USDA and the Forest Service to get a change to allow existing practices to continue until we get that permanent resolution done. So, like I said, we are head shy, but at the same time, by all accounts, our current Secretary of Agriculture is making good on the promises she said during her press conference with us in DC and working with us to fix it.
I also feel like the second aspect from mentioning in the podcast, whenever she heard that it never went, or if you can reiterate that point again too, because she thought everything was all right, but then...
Yeah. So it took us longer to get it communicated back up to Secretary Rollins that we could not use this land following that press conference in DC than it took for the Forest Service to bring us charges when this all began, because when we had criminal charges brought against us, that stopped this resolution process. It just stops. And so once the criminal part was over, this May, we went back to where we were
May 1st the year before.
May 1st of the year before, to where, like, how do we fix this? We need we still, to our knowledge, there has been no official survey done. They did, the USDA did send a surveyor out. I just haven't seen the results. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, so I'm assuming it's in the right place, but let's verify the line. And so while we were working through those steps, and when she found out we were not able to use this, we couldn't use our private either because of the nature of it. It's out there on the tip of the pivot. She said, well, put a temporary use agreement in place that allows the mods to continue existing practices until we get a permanent resolution reached. What kicked out to us was that we could reseed it to native forages, and it was basically what they allow after a fire has come through. And it would have been a permanent change on our grazing permit, meaning that if the local U.S. Forest Service ranger read it, it dictated that we had to get native forages, replant it, and it could have been very expensive on us. It could have taken several years, and it would have been required. When Secretary Rollins found out what she requested versus what we received, I understand, I haven't spoken with her about this, but I understand she furloughed several people. We then worked directly with the chief of the Forest Service and our regional forester, and were able to get it in place as she requested, which is continuing existing practices. So we do very sincerely thank her and everybody else involved in that, because this is our feed base. Our entire place was built around this property right here. And this is our only irrigated property, and we're very grateful to have a Secretary of Agriculture that understands that, and who understands the significance of, if you are planning to resolve it, you need to allow the existing practices to continue. Where there was no, the charges were dismissed. They have said that it was wrong to come after us in any fashion through the court system. So now we are back to, we in this agency resolve it. And so in the interim, it is logical that management should be able to continue as it has since before the agency even existed.
So when they got done surveying in 1886, that's where the river ran, was right on the outside of that fence. So, or on the outside of these lots, sorry. And so they started over there and they ended at the river because that's a county line. This isn't Custer County. That's on Pennington County on the other side. So they had this leftover piece of land that necessarily, it might be odd increments, this one, what's it add up to, 56 between the two of them?
53.
53 between the two of them, whatever. And so it didn't fit a 40 description or anything like that, so they just made that lot 2 in section 8 lot 3 in section 8. We already own lot 1 and lot 4 down there. So we owned like this around these 2 lots. And this is the corner between lots 2 and 3. That's the corner between lots 1 and 2. And actually that corner down there that's in the river is between lots 3 and 4.
And then this was like the stake. What was the why did they put this here, and who put this here?
Travis Lunders and his survey crew last April put this here. They put boundary line. They put every about 100 feet. They had a stake all the way down along here to keep us from farming this land.
These red ones. These
tall
red ones.
Tall red ones, and above it said no trespassing.
You know, it said property boundary, national grassland behind this sign.
Yep.
Is what it said above it.
So pretty much those signs documented the corners, and then after that it was that sign that she had down along here, and then on the north end too. So they were trying to lay this out so we couldn't use it.
And we didn't. From the time that they conducted the survey on, we did not touch that side. That's why it still looks so different than this side. Charles continued to like control weeds on this side. And this has the standing crop from 2024 in it, along with all the weeds. So that is why. And they did tell the internal review that we did not listen to them and did not
Quit managing.
Yeah, quit using it. And so when we brought them down here, we showed them this and said, we feel like this is pretty clear.
Yeah.
That we managed this and that we did leave this alone from the time in which they actually requested it.
Yeah, because when we were up at the top, I mean, even that's how you even described at the beginning. You can clearly see there's part green, and then a massive part that's not green.
Yep, and that they're weeds. You know, they're just what's covering the land. It's not something planted.
The green crop has been put here less than a month ago, so it's since we've been able to operate that the wheat is now coming under all the weeds, and so.
And then going back to again the fence line, is this the fence line, or is it the fence line that's over there?
It's that line right there.
So their survey states that this is the boundary line. We would like an actual survey. We believe they're probably right, but we would like them to follow their protocols and do an actual survey. But we assume this is probably right. This fence right here is what has always been used as the management and property boundary.
And so so the Forest Service, she's claiming that because you have that there and all of this is theirs, this is what
what they say we stole.
Infractions happen.
Okay.
Yep.
They are claiming this is what we stole from here to that fence.
But the way the indictment was, and we talked about that earlier today, was the indictment was loosely wrote. And so we're pretty positive that he was trying to get us for that piece of land that jots up there where the road's at too, for using that at the same time as our private land. Even though it's the same group of cows, almost, same time of year, he was grabbing at straws.
And it was so unclear, like different attorneys would give us different perspectives on how it was written. So that's another question.
Yeah,
like,
one thing was just here, the next thing it was both, the way it was wrote.
Some people said that's just the way you write indictments with regard to juries. That's not our world, so we don't know.
And then for the plot that was over there that you still owned, you were mentioning that you were trading, was it that for the rest of this?
Right.
Well, that's that's our initial plan. Well, that's off the table now.
Yeah. Yeah, that big tree down there. That's
From there, that direction.
There's the two, then there's one more to the left of them. From about that left tree back in there are 20 acres that we own on their side of this same fence, which goes to what we have said the whole time, that fences are put in practical places.
Every time this river bottom floods, these fences
they're gone.
They're gone. Like this fence here is said to really stood the test of time because it's on that berm. It might flood through it, break the bottom wires or something like that, fill with debris, but it never has really ever ripped it completely out. You get down in there where the river is vicious, it'll be completely gone. The banks will be gone.
In 19, this was all underwater. There are years that it comes up. So yeah, one of the things we offered during the one meeting we had with management on May 1st was to trade our acres. Then those had never been cultivated. We've never had a no trespassing sign on that. We have always allowed them to use that as though it were public land. We've always allowed the public full access to it. Mm-hmm. And so what we offered was that we trade that for this. We get a survey. That was going to be 4 or 5 acres short, we thought. So then we would be writing a check to them for those 5 acres difference. That is one of the options we proposed May 1st.
And they shut it down immediately? Or?
Well, it was just well, we don't know.
And then they come back with the indictment.
And then they said, well, no matter what we do, it's going to take a survey. And surveys take months to maybe even over a year. And then 6 days later, like I said, at 4:45, we get an email. I'm doing a survey. I can do what I want. I will go where I want per this state statute. And the next day, this was planted, and he just staked out across it, drove along this line. It does say in that state statute you cannot do damage. And they did drive.
He drove right down that hill and come over here.
And drove across, just like it'd be like if we drove across this now. You know, it would do damage to the crop, and staked along here. And from that, then you're like, well, what's going on? So again, that's the point. We reached out to the sheriff and the congressional. We just said, we're just not comfortable with how this is going. We went into this thinking this was to determine a path of resolution. We were told this was months to a year out to get to this point. Nobody's telling us anything. We did call the ranger, and she goes, well, I don't know. We haven't had time to discuss anything, and he's a great guy. If you listen to him, you'll get along just fine. And she is who the Forest Service considers the managing entity of this. Mm-hmm. So that's who we have to work with to resolve it. So when she tells us that, and you're just kind of like, well, what is going on? You have to start questioning that.
Absolutely.
So that's the point in which we did that. But yeah, we offered to trade. We suggested utilizing the Small Tracts Act. So in hindsight, it's easy to discuss this. Going into it, we had no idea what was to come, right? We genuinely believed we were trying to figure out, how do you resolve this with this agency? What are our options? We've never had a problem with them. We've never faced, so we were just kind of like, you're Google searching, and you're calling older neighbors that you think may have done this at some point, and just like, how does this work? If you have a boundary issue with the Forest Service, and if it does end up being the case that it ended up being where our fence is off the line, how do we fix it? Well, that's what we're thinking, and then boom.
And then this is also why you, the end listener and watcher, really have to care about where your food comes from, but all the farmers and ranchers in this country, because it's clear, even if you comply, if you're doing it the right way, and on top of not doing anything wrong in the first place, that doesn't matter. And this is happening everywhere. And yeah, it's just insane corruption that most people are not aware of whatsoever. And I don't know, that's why it's funny that people think that can't be possible, but then, well, here it is.
Here it is, yeah.
Happening constantly.
Yeah.
Yep. It rears its head everywhere.
Yeah, and I think it scared so many people, because this right here, the putting a fence in a practical spot in the west in rugged, this is as easy as it gets fencing federal lands. From here west, it gets rougher, and it scared them, because this happens everywhere, both ways. Just like we have land on their side, they have land on ours. But if you're going to bypass everything and just start criminally indicting people, it scared a lot of people. And
it goes back to what you said in the podcast that I didn't even really think about, was ranching is the only industry left to where most people are the landowners, and that's why.
There's a fight for control of lands, and particularly lands in the West, because these are the last great open landscapes where large swaths of land are privately owned, and private property rights are important.
It's one of the many important things about America.
It is, yeah, and it isn't just land. And if we degrade them in our western landscapes, pretty much that then opens the door to degrading them when it comes to owning your home, your vehicle. Anything that you own is that you have a right to that property that you have purchased. And yeah, when those things are circumvented, or when a general misunderstanding that occurs on century-old places are used as an opportunity to try to remove good standing citizens from that land and destroy them, their business, their legacy, their future, it's a very serious issue that none of us can close our eyes to.
It's just, that's why I do all of this. It's just freaking brutal. There's no other way to put it. It's just freaking brutal.
Yeah, and wrong. It's just wrong. And it's hard when most of us, right, don't we all seek to be good people? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that goes, again, what I said with him too. You're saying that they all thought he was just this nice guy, but no, they're messing with a good man that would stand up for what he believes in. And that's a massive difference too. And that's also what I find funny with, say, like Bill Gates. They're the nice guy.
Yeah.
They are the nice portray, but behind closed doors, very evil and not good people.
No.
And ranching is full of good people, and that's to me
right.
also why they're so fully attacked.
Yep. Private industry in America is full of good people, and ranching is a private industry. And so it feels like we're all under attack. Yeah. Yep. But we are strong.
Very.
Yep.